Good morning. What is going on, YouTube world? I am your brother Reza, and this is KRT Life, KRT Life with a Y. And today, we are going to have some fun with the G Wagon in the driveway, because we're not on the parking deck anymore. Coming up next. Alright, so in today's video, we are going to be doing brakes on this 2013 G550. So we're going to go ahead and get it jacked up and get these wheels off and get started. Today's tools of the trade. I'm going to start off with this thing so I can take it out of this shot as fast as possible. I use this to scrub all of the rust off the rotors and off the hub assemblies. So that's going away out of the shot. Now then, since I got that out of the way, I'm going to start with, I guess the smallest bits first and then work my way up. So I used some sockets. I used a 10mm socket to get the brake sensor connectors loose. I don't think 10mm is what comes standard on this car, but somebody who worked on this car before put this on there, put those 10mm bolts on there, so I use that to get the brake sensor off. I used this right here, which is a 19mm, to take the caliper bolts loose. I could not find any torque measurements that I trusted for the caliper bolts, so just make it good and tight. That's the best I could find. I put these at 100 foot-pounds of torque. I think that should be enough to hold the calipers on. So 19mm caliper bolts. I used various ratchets. This is the small quarter ratchet. This is a 3/8 drive ratchet. Both of them come in handy for different things when doing this project. You really don't need that as long as if you have a 3/8 to quarter reducer, then you can just use one like this. And the little bit that's on here is a T70. Now, like I said, when you're working on German cars, if you own a German car, you should have a Torx bit kit similar to this. This one goes from a T60, or that's, yeah, T60, all the way down to a, what does that say? A T10. So this has the full gamut of Torx bits that you would need pretty much to work on a German car. I've used all these before from these German cars I work on. They work great. I used this, I can't think of what this thing is called right now.
Pin puncher.
Punch, yes. I use this punch tool to get the pins out in the front calipers. You need that. I use this cold chisel to get around the hubs and get all that corrosion and rust out so that the rotors would come off a little bit better. These spreading tools are good to start working the pads loose when you're trying to get the pads apart, so you can pull the caliper or the brake pads off from the rotor. So those are great to have. Extensions are great to have. Oh, another socket that I forgot. Sorry about that, y'all. This socket right here is a 17mm deep socket. You need this to remove the wheels. That's something that you want to do if you want to do brakes. Vice grip. This is great for pulling that pin out the final way. Once you get it out with the punch initially, you can get this vice grip and work that thing all the way out on the front calipers. You gotta have it. C-clamp. A C-clamp was good for the rear calipers. Didn't really use it for the front, because in the front I used this. I finally got to use my handy dandy caliper spreader that I got off Amazon. The link will be below. This thing is great for a lot of different applications when it comes to brakes. So yeah, I use this and this thing works like a charm. I had to use my breaker bar, of course. You know, no job's complete without the trusty breaker bar with my little reducer on there. This is a 1/2 inch to 3/8 reducer, but breaker bar is a must-have to get those stubborn caliper bolts started. What else? Torque wrench. You gotta have the torque wrench. Like I said, I couldn't find the torque specifications for this job, but I still use my torque wrench to get them good and tight. And what else? Oh, the other VIPs of this job would be this hammer for doing all the fine hammering that I had to do with the punch right here, and the 4-pound hammer. This thing right here, the job would not have been possible without this and a combination of the freeze-off that I used to get everything loose. And of course, you know, you got to have your brake lube, because, you know, you want your brakes to be nice and lubed when you're doing the braking business. So, there we go. Tools of the trade. See, I got to get myself a good impact wrench, because this is how I'm opening these bolts right now, because they're torqued on so good, but are tight. So I'm using this right here, my jack handle with my breaker bar as my pivot point thing or whatever. You get the point. This is my extension. It works. All right, so we got the wheel off and doing the brakes. And we're starting off with the front brakes on this 2013 G550. And digging into this thing, there's a couple things I want to say real quick. Number one is that the pads on this thing are, wow, they're actually a lot lower than I thought they were. You can bring the camera in here real quick so I can show y'all. Look at that. Look how low the pads are. So my boy has definitely got his money out of this, and that's definitely why the wear sensors went out. And you can also see the lip that's starting to develop on this rotor. It's not that bad. I've definitely seen worse. It was definitely worse on my 911, but we'll go ahead and change these as well since we're doing all this. And then the other thing, so before I started on this, I know from past experience that getting a 19 millimeter back here to get the actual caliper bolt off can be kind of a task, and I don't have a 19 millimeter spanner or wrench, I guess whatever they call this right here. So I set this up right here. I set up a 19 millimeter with a little extension with another adapter to go onto my 1/2 inch breaker bar, and I was able to get this. Let me show you this real quick. Up under this and up under all that to get to this caliper bolt right here. So this one right here is on the top. I got that one loose, and then I got this one down here loose. Yeah, you can't really see it, but there's another one down there. Believe me, trust me, there's 2 of them on here. I wouldn't lie to you. So I got those cracked and they're both loose, and now I'm gonna go ahead and loosen up the rotor, get this rotor off, get this caliper off, take the brake pads out, clean everything up, put everything back together, and do it in super turbo speed so I don't waste your time with a very, very long video. It doesn't have to be very long. All right, so I got the 2 caliper bolts out already, and as you can see, they're very different. Well, not very different, but very different. Yeah, very different. This one is for the bottom, and this one is for the top, or at least that's how they came off on this one. Hopefully they're the same on the other side. Now I'm going to go ahead and knock this pin out, take the brake pads out, and disconnect the brake pad sensor, or the wear sensor. And yeah, then I'm going to go ahead and support the caliper and pull the rotor off, and then put it all back together. And the reason I'm doing it like this is because this brake line that is connected to, I think this is called a Burfield axle. I know it's like that on Toyota. I'm not 100% sure on Mercedes if it's called a Burfield, but solid axles. And the way that this is made, there's a solid brake line in between here and here on the actual end of the axle and the actual caliper. So I can't really move this caliper around like you can in most things unless I unbolt this right here, and I don't want to do all that. So I'm going to pull it off, suspend it, and then I'm going to pull all the hardware out and then put it all back together. So you'll see me do it. So the caliper is off. Not the caliper, what am I talking about? Well, yeah, the caliper is off, but the rotor is also off, which was the whole point of this exercise, was to get this rotor off. And as you guys can see, this thing was really, really rusted in place. This particular car did a lot of driving up north and in the south as well. So those winters up north are no joke. Man, you really got to use your rust off stuff to get stuff off when it's been up in the north. But now I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to put some on it to keep it from doing that again, and put everything back together. And when I say I'm going to show you what that is in a second. Okay, so I finally got that pesky rotor off that was rusted on. So now I've used my wire brush to clean up this hub right here, and now I'm going to put some brake part lubricant on it, and yeah, get my pads ready and do everything else and put everything back together. So let's go now. So now I'm going to use my trusty new brake pad extender tool. What is this thing called? Hold on.
Spreader.
I'm going to use my trusty brake pad spreader to spread these calipers apart or spread these pistons apart inside this caliper right here. So this will be my first time using it, so let's see how it works. That was actually really good. I'm very, very, very happy with that tool. Yeah, that's much better than using a C-clamp. So if this may be your first time ever doing a brake job and you're watching this video, I just wanted to show you what a used brake pad looks like versus a new brake pad. So this is a brand new brake pad right here, and in my left hand is a used brake pad, and you can see the difference in wear. Like, these were pretty much all the way done, and this is a new pad. So yeah, this is why when your brake warning goes off, you should go ahead and change your brakes, because I mean, this didn't have very much longer before this is going to be straight rotor to the actual plate, and the brake material is going to be completely gone, because you can see how thick it was originally versus this. So yeah. All right, one other thing that I wanted to show y'all real quick about your brake sensors and why you should change your sensors. So if your actual brake warning goes off in your car, the reason why that goes off is, as you can see, if you can zoom in, or I don't know if you can see this real good. Let me see. If I get this right here, you can see where this sensor right here has been triggered because the metal contact in there has made contact with the actual rotor that's spinning and going past this, causing the actual warning to go off. So this sensor right here in the package, and I'll actually pull out the package so you can see it better. Let's see here. Doing this with gloves on is not the move. All right, so here we go. So you can see how the warn sensor has actually been worn all the way through, and this is what a new sensor looks like. It has a little bit of plastic shielding around it to keep it from, I guess, shorting itself out or grounding itself out and giving you an error message when you don't have a real sensor that's or a brake pad that's worn out. But when it is worn out, that's what it looks like, and that's why in this case these definitely have to be replaced. Now if these haven't been worn all the way out, typically you can reuse these, but they're so cheap, so, I mean, it just makes sense to go ahead and change them out if you're doing this anyway. So I got my guide pan back in. I have the silencer vibration dampener thing back in. I have my sensor back in. I've reattached that, and I have torqued my two caliper bolts back to the hub. And of course my new rotor is in its place as well. So now all I gotta do is put these wheels on, and then we're gonna move to the back. Ooh, should be even more fun. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the rear brakes on this W463 G550, and here we go. About to dig right into it. Pulling this wheel off right now. So this particular G Wagon brake job has been kicking my behind today, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, because this vehicle has seen a lot of salt and snow, and because of that there's a lot of corrosion on the hub and in between the hub and the actual rotor. So you can visualize this better, in case you've never done this before. This is what the rotor that came off the driver's side looks like. So this is not one solid piece. This piece is separate from this piece. What I have to do to get this off is use a cold chisel and chisel around here, and then put a whole bunch of this right here. Freeze off is the unsung hero of today's vlog, because without this, I don't know if I would have been able to do this job, to be honest with you, because these rotors are so rusted onto the hubs. It's been a beast doing this job, but it's a very easy job, so don't let it intimidate you. It's just getting it off with all this rust. Very hard. So here we go. I'm going to, actually, you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and walk you through this first. So what I'm going to do is use this chisel first. I'm going to chisel around here, get all this corrosion and stuff off. I'm going to spray a bunch of freeze off on into these little holes and around this little area to hopefully, help break this rust loose. After I do that, I'm going to use a trusty Torx bit. Which one am I going to use? I'm going to use a T70, I believe this is. Yes, this T70 to get this little Torx screw out, which actually holds that to the actual hub. And then after I do that, then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to use my trusty 19 millimeter socket with a combination of my breaker bar to get the caliper bolts loose that are behind this caliper. You don't have to take this apart over here on the actual caliper slide bolts. You can just use a, where is it? C-clamp, put it on here like so, push the piston back in, and then take the caliper bolts off and just pull the whole thing off. It's way easier to do it that way. And yeah, then then you put it back the reverses as you took it apart. But I'm gonna walk you through that as well. So here we go. So I'm sure this is pretty common for people up north who wrench to see like pads rusted in place, but I've never seen that being in the South. Like this pad is literally rusted in place. So the solution that I have found to get these things loose is get a trusty hammer or something like this. I don't think we need a trusty hammer. Where is my trusty hammer? I don't know where my trusty hammer went. Oh, here it goes, right in front of my face. So yes, a trusty hammer, and if you can like aim your hammer really good, you can just go through there like so. I'm pretty good with the hammer, kind of like John Henry or Thor or something. But then you can get this pad out like that. So as you can see, when I whacked it, that got it for the most part out. Give it another whack or two. There we go. Now it's out. But yeah, these things were rusted into place. So, oh, look how bad it was. Ooh, I swear I didn't just do that. Wow. These pads are pretty darn worn. And let me show you what a good pad should look like. Good pad, once again. Bad pad. Very important to change your brake hardware. Faux show. These are wear parts, but wow, you should definitely do this. Oh, and if you have a G Wagon, holler at us, KRT LYFE with the Y on IG. And if you're in the local Atlanta, Georgia, southwest area, southeast area, what am I talking about? Holler at me. Maybe we can work something out, and if you need your brakes done, I can do them for you. Alright, so I hammered out these pads. They were rusted in place pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is clean and lube these little sliding points where the pads actually move, and reinstall the new pads. And you're about to see me take a hammer to this and finally get this rotor off, because these rotors, yeah, they've been annoying as hell today. So that's coming up right now. Alright, so that one came off. Didn't put as much fight as the one in the front did. I swear, like the front, what was it, the passenger side? I fought that one for about an hour to get it off. This one wasn't so bad. So, yeah. Just keep it in mind, though, if you're going to deal with this, that there is a possibility of rust, especially if you're dealing with the vehicle that has been up north. Now what I'm going to do is clean this area right here, make it all nice and pretty, put some brake lube on that, put all the hardware back together, and yeah, we can get this thing driving down the street and go ahead and test it. Alright, so finally done with the front and rear brake rotors on this 2013 G550. Doing brakes is a very easy job. However, it takes patience and tenacity when you're doing these jobs, because in this situation, this car is spending a lot of time up north, as I've said previous times within this video, and the rust factor was immeasurable, unmeasurable. Like, you couldn't even imagine how much harder it was to do this job just because of the amount of rust that I had to break loose to get the rotors off and other parts that were frozen. But I was a trooper and I got through it, and now I'm done, and now this G Wagon is stopping like it's brand new. And the brakes, they were literally like millimeters away from being completely done on all four corners. So I'm glad that my boy brought this truck over here for me to go ahead and service it before there was like steel on steel, because then it would have been making crazy noise, and then he definitely would have brought it over here to service it. Either way, rotors had to be changed, pads had to be changed, and the universe is all good now. Everything is healed. If you have a G Wagon and you're in the Atlanta area and you need some wrenching done on it, holler at your boy, KRT LYFE, KRT LYFE with the Y. Like, subscribe, comment on IG, YouTube, whatever. Holler at me. I'm out of here. Peace. About to go eat lunch.